see the inauguration of the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, which is happening today at the Kasarani Stadium. As we speak, we'll cross over to our reporters there to find out what the latest is as they prepare for a full entry that the President-elect, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, have to deal with when they assume office this morning. The Constitution says that they have to do this between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. today. And the people are told that they need to be seated by 8 a.m. and the program will begin at that point, where the inauguration will begin at the Kasarani Stadium. We have people who are there, reporters on the ground. Ayub Abdikadir is joining us live. Seth Olale is also there. Stephen Leto will also come in at some point. Ayub, good morning. It's good to see you. So we saw earlier on pictures of people breaching the security walls and making their way into the stadium. What really happened there? Ayub?
Good morning from the Kasarani Stadium. It's 49 minutes past 6 o'clock, and Kenyans in their thousands have attended this important exercise, which will be kick-starting officially from 10 a.m. and set to end at 2 p.m., which within is the constitutional timeline. And it is the very important exercise that will be happening as President Uhuru Kenyatta hands over the instruments of power as his tenure comes to an end today, marking the 10-year tenure since he was elected in office in 2013. And later on, we are expecting much of the activities to be taking place here at the Kasarani International Stadium, including the dignitaries who have arrived in the country, including heads of state from the African continent and delegations sent by countries including the United States of America and China. With me is our political affairs reporter, Seth Olale, who we have been here together in the observation of how Kenyans have been thronged in this stadium, and the thousands of Kenyans who have been here since early morning. Others are kept outside because the stadium is now full to capacity. And Seth, much of the observations here, the electric environment over here, and an important day Kenyans are looking forward to as the new president will be inaugurated later.
And of course, it's a public holiday meant for this particular occasion. It was interesting to see, Ayub, as early as 3 a.m., Kenyans across all walks of life had already arrived here at the Kasarani Stadium. There was quite an incident at about 6 a.m. when a perimeter fence was actually broken into by a section of the crowd, perhaps just raising some of the security concerns even ahead of this particular event. What we know is that security has been beefed up inside and outside the stadium. Right now, the 60,000 capacity Kasarani International Stadium is full. And what we know, Ayub, is that there's still more people outside the perimeter fence. So it will be interesting to see if the organizers will let them in, or they will organize at least big screens on the outside. But so far, so good in terms of preparations. You can see the MCs are already testing the public address system. We are expecting the KDF to take its position any moment from now. And of course, like you mentioned, at least 20 heads of states are already in the country. And even notably is the East African community heads of states and, delegations already arriving here, just telling you that the region takes this particular inauguration very seriously.
And of utmost significance, Seth, is whilst this is a constitutional process, and President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday underscoring the importance this day bears in handing over the instruments of power, not only he said places Kenya at the very top in terms of democratic ideals and the credentials thereof, but also becoming a beacon, and the strong delegation sent by the world powers, China and the United States of America, who will be here alongside other heads of state. And going forward then, isn't it one that also among the community of nations makes Kenya to stand tall and take pride in the democratic process that happened on the 9th of August? and how this further consolidate our constitutional principles.
Exactly, and that's why there were over 200 international observers in the country, because the particular elections that was witnessed on the August 9th, it was a landmark not only to the East African region but Africa as well. And you've seen how the reaction has been since the general election, the congratulatory messages, from the heads of states, from the dignitaries and observers around the world, stating that indeed Kenya produced quite a significant exercise. And you know what? The peace and stability that has prevailed even after the election is quite admirable. And what we know is that there are some key personalities that will be of greater significance today. We're talking about the Registrar of the Judiciary, Anna Hamadi. We're talking about the Chief Justice, Martha Koome, who will actually administer the process of oath-taking. And of course, the man of the moment, William Ruto, the president-elect, and his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta. And of course, the First Lady is involved. And of course, the Deputy President-elect, Rigathi Gachagua. Some of the key personalities that we are waiting. But so now, the electric moment, the crowd cheering around us, the 60,000 supporters and Kenyans who've just come to witness this particular historic moment.
And Seth, it's because of the environment over here, but then the cheer that is coming from the thousands of Kenyans here is a demonstration of them coming out and the hope they have in the incoming administration in terms of the economy, in terms of setting the record straight and the expectations. This is largely a demonstration of how pregnant the public is, and going forward is an expectation they have of a government that will be inaugurated today of the President-elect Deputy President Dr. William Ruto. And then the economy, which is largely an important pillar of the Deputy President's manifesto, launched here at the gymnasium. How close will they be watching how this will be done, the economy? And I mean, Kenyans wanting to feel the value of the shilling in their pocket.
Exactly, Ayub, because even the president-elect himself, on numerous occasions, even after he was elected into office, he's been saying that one of his greatest concerns will be uniting the country after a very hectic and a very close call in terms of the campaigns and the political temperatures. So his call and his take immediately after he was declared president-elect at the Bomas of Kenya by the IEBC chairperson of Wafula Chebukati, William Ruto did say his main agenda will be uniting the country, and thereafter, of course, just executing his mandate, and especially the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. So what we know is that from his previous public appearance, and especially on Sundays, where he's been attending church services, we saw him in Kiambu County, we also saw him in Meru County, and in each and every occasion, he did say that much of what is being expected to say, he will say it today during his grand inauguration. So we expect the president-elect speech to contain issues to do with, cohesion, unity after the election and now moving forward. Remember that the president-elect William Ruto also talked about working with those who actually competed against him in this particular election.
And Seth, today is a set-piece moment. I mean, the election process is over with President Uhuru Kenyatta, who will be handing over the instruments of authority. It bears otherwise also a very monumental exercise that will be happening here. It's the second time under the current constitutional dispensation where power is handed over from one authority to the other, and the commitment made by the president yesterday. Therefore, going forward, how does this further embolden the aspirations of the Kenyan people they had under the current constitutional dispensation that we promulgated in 2010?
I think it puts the country to another level in terms of democracy, civilization. It puts us at par with other modern, other developed nations, I might say. And that one also cements the kind of democracy, the kind of the constitutional protection that is being upheld by the people of Kenya. And like you said, the Deputy President or the President-elect, William Ruto, earlier on did say that he hopes that his predecessor, Uhuru Kenyatta, will oversee a peaceful transition of power. And indeed, the outgoing President, Uhuru Kenyatta, has been committed. We saw yesterday the President, Uhuru Kenyatta, and the First Lady, Margaret Kenyatta, hosting the incoming President and the incoming First Lady at State House. And also remember that during the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition parliamentary group meeting at the Masai Lodge in Kajiado County, the President said that he will be smiling, handing over the instruments of power. So maybe just a clear indication that the head of state is clear to make sure and committed to make sure that the constitutional journey Kenya began in 2010 actually take precedence in today's particular historic inauguration.
And said there is one element that stands out when you look at the promises that were made by either side of the political divide, and the Kenyan people accorded the mandate to one side of the divide. How does then the Deputy President appeal the message of reconciliation to the other people on the other side, on the other island part of the political divide, in terms of striking that reconciliatory tone going forward? And the message that came from President Kenyatta yesterday, that look, Mr. President-elect, you will be the President of Kenya, not only for those who had voted for you. How do you think he can go about that? Because there seems to be also, going forward, the part that opposed you during the campaign.
You know, being elected into office is one thing. Executing the mandate and that which you promised Kenyans, it's a totally different thing. But the President-elect, William Ruto, said when he was asked by one of the journalists, when the Supreme Court actually upheld his presidency in that landmark ruling by the Apex Court, the President-elect did say that, you know what, there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of expectations, and especially during his first 100 days in office, one of the key agenda for the Kenya Kwanza Alliance was reducing the cost of living through improving the economy. And you know, that is what Kenyans will be expecting in the first 100 days of office. Issues to do with unga, the prices of unga, and many other basic commodities, the subsidies that is going to be introduced in food products, in the agricultural products, in the petroleum products, which are very key and core in the industrialization sector. So for me, I think that President-elect William Ruto today is expected just to hit back and to revisit the Kenya Kwanza Alliance manifesto in ensuring that he delivers on that which he promised the country and especially his supporters during the official 90 days campaign period.
And it was over the weekend said that the President-elect had said that he looks forward to rebooting the agriculture sector. He talked about the Miraa exports to Somalia, and President Hassan will be here today alongside other African heads of state and delegations who will be representing their governments here. And it shows how agriculture is the centerpiece of William Ruto's manifesto, what he called the plan that he launched here at the Kasarani Gymnasium Indoors Arena. Going forward then, the cost of living, whoever Kenyans would have accorded the mandate, would be very important. How hopeful should they be going forward then? How realizable is that post the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of rescaling the country's economy, talking about public debt and the very basics of the return on investments that the Deputy President talked about during the campaigns, now the President-elect, and he said going forward, agriculture will be of concern. I mean, how does he then balance all this that is crumbling for his attention and the attention of his government going forward?
Exactly, and that is why the Kenya Kwanza Alliance in its manifesto stated that it will reduce the cost of fertilizer from 6,000 shillings to 2,500, and that the government will inject subsidies that will cushion farmers towards the high prices of fertilizer. And the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, I remember very well when I covered some of their campaigns, did say that agriculture is the backbone in terms of economy, in terms of GDP of the nation. And so for them, it would be key to safeguard the farmers, to safeguard the agricultural sector. They talked about weeding out cartels. And you can remember when the president-elect was in Meru just recently, did say that he will deal with the cartels. And we know that the coffee industry, the tea industry in the country, the petroleum industry, and many other agricultural departments have been complaining about cartels, about the middlemen. So maybe a call by the deputy, or rather the president-elect in Meru on Sunday, stating very clearly that upon putting the biblical oath of instrument down, after being sworn in, he will straightforward go for these particular cartels. And we hope that who will benefit after this, it will be the farmer.
And Seth, another important element which was also a standalone aspect was the commitment that he made in his manifesto, that is the president-elect, of constitutionalism. He said he will oversee the implementation of Katiba 2010, and he cited institutions of government which he said ought to be given their independence as enshrined in law. He talked about the DCI, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Kenya Revenue Authority, which he said during the campaigns were rather weaponized, and that he's going to inject billions of shillings to ensure that there is independence which they are guaranteed under the Constitution. How do you think then this will be undertaken? Because constitutionalism and the rule of law is very key going forward for the emboldening of the country's democracy.
Indeed, Ayub, the president-elect, who's now just hours away of becoming the 5th president of the nation, has been on the forefront in defending the Constitution. He was so much against the Building Bridges initiative because, according to him, the basic structure of the Constitution was going to be changed. And those are some of the issues that were raised in those who were against the BBI. So asking me about the president-elect and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance upholding the 2010 Constitution, I think they've been on the forefront. And that is why when we went to the Supreme Court in determination of the fate of the BBI, they did mention that they feared that, you know, some of the principles, some of the tradition that the 2010 Constitution is currently upholding will be taken away. And the president was the president-elect was very categorical in regards to protection of the judiciary. Remember, he was against what he termed that there was an attempt by the BBI to bring a prefect to preside over the judiciary. So for me, I think this particular incoming administration will be very key in making sure that the 2010 Constitution, which Kenyans overwhelmingly, through a consensus, actually chose these particular laws to govern the land. I think the Kenya Kwanza Alliance will uphold the 2010 Constitution. There will be protection of the constitutional commissions and all that.
And what you are seeing on your screens at the moment are pictures of the 3 services of the Kenya Defence Forces. And this is the Kenya Army, the Kenya Air Force, and the Kenya Navy, who are preparing for the entrance of the pitch where they will be lining up in waiting for President Uhuru Kenyatta, who will be inspecting a guard of honor today. And it will be happening here at the Moi Sports Center, Kasarani, where then he will go to the podium where he will oversee the handing over of the instruments of power to the president-elect. That is Dr. William Ruto. And they're now preparing for one more gathering before they set their feet on the pitch, as is the tradition by the Kenya Defence Forces, who had given President Uhuru Kenyatta a Kwaheri salute this week at the Langata Barracks, where that event happened, and President Uhuru Kenyatta overseeing that engagement with the Kenya Defence Forces, all the 3 services, the Kenya Defence Forces, the Kenya the Kenya Navy, the Kenya Defence Forces, and the Kenya Army, and the Air Force of the Kenya Defence Forces, all who will be here. And this as part of the Inauguration Day, and this happening at the Moi Sports Centre, Kasarani, where the President-elect, Deputy President Dr. William Ruto, will be handed over the instruments of power, a reign that he will begin as the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, and said this pointing to again what has been the ruling Jubilee Party, and going forward, the pledge that the President and the Deputy President made in September 2016 in coming up with a political party that will end ethnic balkanization in the country, that will be based on a unity platform. But that was never the clear picture into 2022. Now the Jubilee Party, not in the shape it was in 2017, shot by about 62 MPs to have an absolute majority in Parliament. Then now less than 50 members of Parliament in the National Assembly. And what does this point to in terms of the politics of ideals and policies, and whether this can be instilled going forward to further cement the country's political establishment?
I think UDA managed to convince the masses, to convince Kenyans that, you know, what they are selling to them in terms of the manifesto is ideal and realistic, and, you know, captures, you know, the rightful moments in it. And so I think the UDA did very well. You can see the numbers, Ayub, in the National Assembly, in the Senate, and now the Kenya Kwanza Alliance at large, you know, controlling both houses in terms of leadership. We're talking about the Speaker of the National Assembly, you know, being Moses Wetangula of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance, and also Amason Kingi, the Speaker of the Senate. Just telling you, you know what, UDA, Kenya Kwanza Alliance took the presidency very seriously, took governance very seriously, not only in the executive, but now we're talking about the legislature, the legislation bit of it, because they control. So going back to what UDA, what Kenya Kwanza Alliance, you saw the massive campaign they initiated, you know, at some point, just even now dividing themselves, you know, towards the tail end of the election. And so they were very serious in what they were, you know, selling out to the masses. And so I think this is now an opportunity for the leadership of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance now to tell the masses and to tell their supporters, you know what, this is what we promised. But it was not just an empty talk. It is now time to implement, and we need your support towards this. And you talked about, Ayub, about the guys in uniform now taking instructions before mounting that particular guard of honor. It's also going to be the last one for the outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta.
As the Commander-in-Chief, and we now take you back to studio. And beyond the firm pledges made, firm commitments are required. That's the clarion call from Kenyans who are gathered in the thousands here. We take you back to studio at the Communications Center.
Well, thanks, Ayub Abdikadir there, and Seth Olale speaking to us live from the Kasarani Stadium, where a delegation of more than 60,000 people are expected there. As early as 4:30 a.m., people had already started streaming in, and we'll cross over back to Ayub to find out what the people's sentiments are, because the stadium is almost full to capacity at this particular moment. We know earlier on there was a bit of a security breach when quite a number of people forced their way into the stadium. There were a few injuries there reported. We'll find out how many and